Hello. Okay, here I am in the virtual world. I'm just gonna pre-apologize for my dog, who probably will be barking furiously in the background because he's a demon. Okay, so I'm just gonna rebuild everything for you. So I'm just gonna firstly, that's right. Go over what I have in the HTML. So I have a input and a button, and then I've just wrapped both the input and the button inside of an input one. Okay. And then I also have this screen one here. And I have the screen one class because many of you are sort of iterating through, like you're sort of clicking on one thing and then hiding the next thing. And so I have this here so because I want to be swapping in between maybe my inputs and then also the buttons that I'm going to use to be triggering my other calls based on button inputs rather than just like the user input. Okay, so I'm going to add one other thing here. I'm just going to add a screen two. Okay, and that's just going to have another button in it. Give it an ID, and I'll just name it screen two button. Okay, and then here, the GIF canvas. This is actually how you are going to be passing multiple GIFs into multiple stylable divs, right? So I have the general GIF canvas, which is going to be the parent that I'm passing the general canvas declaration into. And then I have these things here, which is where I'm going to be actually passing the imagery into. So that it'll go inside the canvas, but it'll have its own individual div, each of the images, so that you can style them individually. And I'll demo that in just a second. Okay, so like I did the other day, I'm just going to be kind of copying and pasting code from the done version here, just to save a little time. So hopefully that doesn't confuse anyone. All right, so what I have over here is I have, my API calls, API key, and then my input button, and obviously my image. All right, so I know for a fact that I'm going to need input one, input two, and then I'm also going to have to change this to query. Let's make these make a little more sense. So the input, I'm just going to change to input two and input one. And then my submit, I'll change to, let's do like button one, screen one, and let's do button two, screen two. Okay, cool. Just to make things a little more obvious. So the first thing I know I'm definitely going to need to do is do input one, button one, screen one, and then because I know I'm going to need variables to kind of match the HTML elements here. So input two, and then button two, screen two. Okay. And then the other thing I know I'm going to need to do is for this screen two and the button, right? I want this to come up after I've fucked with my inputs. So the first thing I will do for this one here, this whole screen two, I'm going to hide it. So up at the top of my page, I'm going to invoke jQuery. So I'm using jQuery and P5 in this file. If you want to put all your jQuery in one file and then just have two scripts linking, that's totally appropriate as well. So if you want to piece those things out, that would be totally fine. But again, just for brevity, I'm going to keep it one page. Okay, so I'm going to say, I'm just going to totally hide screen two so that we don't even need to mess with it for now, and then I'll invoke it later. Screen two, I'm going to hide that. Boom. Okay. All right, so let's just take a look at our page real quick. Okay, great. So we should just have 2 inputs. Let me see what the deal is with this friend here. Okay, so it looks like my screen 2 button isn't quite hiding. So let me figure out what's going on there. Screen 2 button. Oh, I forgot my punctuation, so it's a class. Just need to put a period there. Boom. Okay, great. So proud. All right, so let's keep going. So the next thing that I'm going to do, and again, this is just the variable image for multiple images. We may actually be invoking multiple images, especially now that we want to pass them into separate canvases. So I'm going to leave this alone for now, but we may actually invoke multiple images. Okay, so I'm going to head over here to my done file. Nope, I lied. I want this one. Final web app. Done. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this first setup function here just so we can kind of get moving. All right, so I'm copying the whole setup. And again, you can get back to this. It's just the Giphy API. I'm happy to send you this done project as well if you need it again. So just let me know. All right, so I'm going to head over to my final web app and just invoke this. Okay, so I'm going to have my variable, which is to create the canvas, and just a background color. And then the canvas parent is going to be this highest level GIF canvas. Let me get back to here. Okay, this GIF canvas. And then I'm going to be passing the images into these IDs, which are inside of the GIF canvas. So Tracy, that's the way that you can pass multiple images and then style them. Okay, so then for my input 1, all right, input 1, I'm going to select, and the thing that I'm going to select is I'm going to select that first input. So it's called input 1. All right, and it's going to be an ID. And then for the button, it's going to be button 1 S1. And this is the name of the variable that I'm using here. Okay, so again, these things are just connecting how I've declared my variables for the pieces of HTML and then the pieces of HTML. Okay, and then when I click on the button here, when I click on that first button, it's going to add this function, which is gif add, and maybe we call this gif add 1, something like that. All right, and for this one, we definitely want just the input value because whatever the user puts in the input, we want to get that. Okay, so let me save here. Okay, great. So, and then down here, we're just missing our, so in order for this to run, we need to invoke that other function. So the image function, okay? So I'm going to invoke this image function here. And then I'll mark this up in just a minute. Okay, great. So I have I'm going to indent this a little bit. Okay, so I have this image function. Again, this is just what sends the URL. And then this is how you get information from the URL. And here's how you pass it into the parent. So what I want to do is instead of passing that image right into the canvas parent, which is GIF canvas, I want to pass it into one of its children. So input 1 canvas. So it'll still be inside the canvas, but then I can use CSS to kind of move it around really specifically. So I'll pass it in here. And parent likes an ID, so you always have to use an ID with parent. It won't validate if you have a class. So if you're using a class, that might be why. All right, so let's save and make sure that this works. All right, so maybe a little error. Let's see what's up. Okay, so I got one error. Uncaught reference error, input is not defined at GIF1. Okay, so this is saying I have an error on 30, GIF1, input is not defined. So it looks like maybe I'm just not, maybe I didn't update one of the names of my variables. So let's head it over there to 30. Great, okay, so this here, this needs to be what my variable is. I'm using input1, not input. So let's put this over here because I want this thing is called input1 and I want to get the value of input1. And so I was using something that doesn't exist. Input doesn't exist in my page anymore. Okay, so let's try this again. Boom. Okay, so this is going to be, all right, and then I have another, let's see, input is not defined. Again, 34, so let me just check. I probably missed something else too. Okay, so I don't need to worry about this. This is just my console log. If you want to do a console log, these are just good things to check, right? You could look in the console, and if you've done it correctly, you should have your console messages, your URL, and then also what you typed in here, okay? So the reason that this image is showing up outside of the canvas is that what I can do with this now, right, is I can actually give it explicit style. So because it has its own div, right, so GIF canvas, input1 canvas, this is actually input1 canvas. So it's set to display block, right? I can give it a position absolute. All right, so position absolute, it'll put it inside the canvas. I can give it a width. Okay, maybe width won't quite work because it's going to be coming in as the size that you want. You can specify exactly what size you want through Giphy if you'd like to, but I can give it like a top. You know, I can move it around. I can do a transform. Rotate. And I can give it a border radius. Maybe it doesn't want to take a border radius. I thought we'd be able to get away with that. But I could give it maybe like a box shadow. Just trying some different things. Yeah. Cool. Maybe a little blur action here. Excellent. And in terms of the size, there should be a way that you can do the size. We might have to be a little more specific. So I'm going to put this into the CSS of this project here. This one. Nope. All right, cool. It's here. Get this. Okay, and I'm targeting input1 canvas. So just put this down here. No, I'll get rid of all this. Has an ID. Put all that good stuff in there. And then this is set to position absolute too. You know, you can mess with this, set it to relative, you can give it, you could center it on the page, you can do all those things, because this is how I'm actually positioning that canvas. Like we could do, you know, instead of maybe a margin, or a display flex. justify content, center. Okay, so now when I do this, all right, there you go. You can also, you know, you can set, if you're getting that like weird, I got like a little weird thing there, you can set that to display none for the time being, and then on button click, you could set it to display block. So those are some things you can do. I kind of like that weird little shine that happens though. Okay, so let's see. Where are we at? Actually, I'm going to stop the video now and pick it back up where we left off.